Welcome to another Upper Cervical Chiropractic clinical review with your host, Dr. Chris Brown, where today I'll be going over a frozen right shoulder, Hashimoto's, and gastroparesis person case that I managed through Upper Cervical Chiropractic care and got fairly good clinical results with. This person, she came to me with a history of gallbladder surgery about a year actually prior to coming in and hearing about our practice here, Upper Cervical Chiropractic. And she, after having her gallbladder removed, she started having a lot of stomach issues, digestive issues, a lot of bloating, a lot of constipation, irregular bowels, and a lot of abdominal pain too. And a big piece of that was when you get your gallbladder removed, which is called a cholecystectomy. When you get that removed, your body loses its ability to process fat. And so if you consume fat, then your body will get really bogged down. Your stomach will get super bloated and bogged down because it can't break those fats down. Our gallbladder produces the enzymes necessary to break that down. And so if we get that gallbladder taken out, well, then we're not really able to consume a whole lot of fat. We have a tougher time digesting fiber, so like fruits and veggies and meat. So a ton of stuff, our digestion just gets really impaired. Our gallbladder plays a really big role in that. In addition, she also had history of Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune condition of the thyroid, where our body will create antibodies attacking cells of our thyroid that produce different hormones that will end up going into cells, get secreted into our bloodstream, producing cells. Our thyroid is an organ that essentially regulates like metabolism and our temperature regulation and our energy. So when that goes away, a lot of women deal with Hashimoto's, and they can cause a lot of heat-cold intolerance, energy fatigue, unexplained weakness, and it's really common in women especially. The last piece for her was she had basically a frozen right shoulder that had like pins, needles, burning pain. I mean, she had it all checked off, like dull, sharp, achy, pins, needles, burning, numbness, going basically down, it was her left arm actually, going down her shoulder all the way down to her hand. And she couldn't like move it. She was like stuck down here. She wasn't able to get it up. She would always do this test where she tried to touch her hand to her shoulder blade, and she'd always show me, look how much different her right versus left arm is. And she had a really tough time just getting it up, and especially like getting it like behind her head like this. It was just kind of like it was be stuck to here, and then it would start to hurt, and she couldn't really like get it up into this range. So she came to us particularly mainly for her shoulder, that had only began about like 3 months prior. It got super locked up. I don't think she got surgery on it. It didn't say in her history if she had an accident or not, and I can't recall. But I do remember this case where she came in and fairly skeptical of everything because all of her doctors had told her, all of her tests showed everything was normal. And they all showed her that there's nothing you can do. You're just going to have to live with this for the rest of your life. Particularly the gastroparesis and Hashimoto. She had already gone to PT, but that wasn't helping either. So she had been told consistently that it's, all in your head. There's nothing we can do about it. You're just going to have to deal with this. And when she came to us and got her first nervous system scan, it showed evidence of dysfunction. She was very just like, is this really the thing? How do you know? What does this mean? All this stuff. And just to kind of connect some dots, what we do during our exam process is we will do a full spine scan. So on a consult, we will do a neck scan, which will just give us insight into whether there's stress on the nervous system or not. And if there is stress, then we know that that is due to a misalignment of either the first or the second bone of the neck, and then that will be in our wheelhouse and in our ability to address. If the scan shows us an optimum peak function and that there's nothing wrong with it at all, then we know that, hey, we're not the right place for you, and that we do need to be able to have people in our network to refer you to that are going to be the next best place. So what we do on an exam is we also do a full spine scan. And the scanner itself, it looks like a Walmart scanner. It's a probe that essentially runs up the back of the spine that will show us a graph on a computer of basically saying whether or not the nervous system is in a functional state or not. And when we do a full spine scan, we're evaluating that on a global level. And so we're actually able to see all of the compensations and consequences of what a misalignment of that upper neck is having on this person's nervous system globally. The reason why it's a global is two pieces, really, is every single nerve that it travels throughout our body that goes to all of its end targets, whether it's a muscle or an organ or just an individual cell even, they all originate from our brain. They travel down through the top bone of the neck, and then they'll start dispersing and spreading out throughout the rest of the spine, almost kind of like a tree. The second part is that our brainstem regulates has all the control centers for all of our organ systems. So this top bone of the neck protects the brainstem, and the neurologic inputs from the muscles in the upper neck, that will be up around here and up around here, they provide input into the brainstem, and we want that input to be balanced and to be calm. That's a piece of what we're measuring on that scan. If we have chaos in, then we can expect chaos out. So when we have access to every single nerve in the entire body at this one bone. So if there's anything going on with that bone, then we might see effects of that, consequences of that downstream, which we can visually and objectively see on that scan. Secondly, we are also assessing the function of our brainstem, which is showing us if the control centers are in a compromised state or not. When I mean control centers, I mean like our digestive center, our cardiorespiratory center, our vasodilatory center that's dealing with blood flow, our hormone center, immune system center, mood regulating center, sleep center, muscle tone center. They're all located right on that brainstem, which sits in the top two bones of the neck like this. So how could the upper neck have impact on stomach function, digestive function, hormone function, thyroid function, autoimmune function, and then also right shoulder function? I'm going to break that down real quick. And also mental health function. So we're going to get 4 pieces in this story right now. Stomach function, fairly simple. We have access to our digestive centers. We have also influence on the nerves that go into our stomach. In particular for her, since she had her gallbladder removed, her stomach had to work extra hard to basically secrete a bunch of acid in order to break down the food that we ate, and she had a really tough time eating. During care, especially in the back end of care, the thing that cleared up initially the most for her was her right shoulder issues and also her anxiety. And then as time went on, some of her symptoms from Hashimoto's cleared up, but then also like her stomach pain, she noticed that like she'd get adjusted, we'd go have her rest in our resting suite, and then she would come back, she'd be like, man, my stomach feels so much better. And they're like, that's crazy how that works. And so she would almost feel like an instant like relief of her stomach through just a neurologic change up here. The pain in her stomach would actually change. And she noted that she was told that she had like scar tissue of her abdomen from the surgery that she had. And that was also impacting her stomach's ability to function, because scar tissue is basically like non-functional cellular tissue that typically occurs after an injury. And surgery is a form of an injury in of itself, even though it's helping get rid of something that is causing more harm than good in the moment. And so that was a really cool thing to kind of just for me to observe, where after I gave a correction, I gave a correction based off of x-rays that we take. For her, it was her second bone on the right, where it was a rotational component and also a translatory component. So with that, we have to adjust kind of right in the middle of those and be able to affect both of those. And for her, she would notice a change in her feeling of her stomach almost like within 20 minutes. She'd come back, she'd be like, man, my stomach just feels so much better. This is great. And, and that for me was like, perfect. That's what, I mean, nervous system does some awesome stuff. I time and time again get humbled by how awesome our nervous system is, especially when it's functioning in a good place. So for the gastroparesis, that was, and the resolving the cholecystectomy kind of residual symptoms from that surgery, that was really cool to observe just from a connection standpoint of, yes, we are having an impact on the digestive centers. Yes, we are having an impact on the origin of all these stomach nerves that also have a lot of sensory input. And I'm seeing that in real time in just one visit, seeing that. And that's not the case for everybody. Everybody's body responds differently. Everybody's body really has a different environment. For her, she just kind of had that like immediate response, especially as we went on through care, when she was way more aware of her stomach and the kind of like visceral pain that she was in. Whereas before, she was so dominated by her shoulder issues that she wasn't really, that her abdominal pain was kind of taking a back seat. She always kind of had that bloating, indigestion, difficulty processing her food throughout, just because she didn't have a gallbladder anymore. But her right shoulder, which on her history was marked left, it was actually her right. That was always just kind of predominating her focus. So her right shoulder, one of the things that improved pretty instantly was the numbness in it. And her numbness, she had it marked. She had, on her pain diagram, she had circles going all the way down her arm, all around her arm. So it was almost like circumferential wrapping around her arm, going all the way from like her neck, shoulder down. And she said, we have a question on our intake form that says, does it radiate anywhere? And she goes, neck, shoulder, arm, wrist, fingers, forearm, all of it just boom. Described it as sharp, achy, dull, pins and needles, burning, stabbing. I mean, it was just like basically every description of pain. That's how she described her shoulder. And it was like, she said it was 100% of the time, moderate, worsening all the time. And she had really lack of motion of it. I mean, she could get it to like here and get stuck. She could barely get it behind her arm. She had a really tough time putting things overhead and like picking like her groceries up from off the ground and getting them onto the counter. And during that, their numbness and the nerve pain was what cleared up the fastest for her, to where by her first re-eval, all she had left was just kind of residual like achiness in here, and her frozen shoulder of just being able to actually kind of get this back and get this up. She had a really tough time with that. And that did end up improving after I told her some at-home stuff that she could do, and she started implementing that, and with care as well. Now I was able to get resolved, because all of those shoulder muscles originate in the neck, and all of the nerves in the arm originate in the neck as well. And oftentimes when we have numbness radiating down our arms or radiating down our leg, more than likely that's due to something from the nervous system being involved, especially if it's not resolving over time. Our body is able to heal itself. And so if our body is continuing to express symptoms day in and day out, then that really indicates to us that there's a nervous system issue going on at a functional level, and we need to assess and address that. So for her, that was able to provide a lot of change, positive change for her, and get that numbness really resolved and start getting a lot more motion in her shoulder, where she got a limb back, which is a pretty big deal. A lot of us take the 4 limbs that we got and the function of it for granted until it's gone. And then we're like, wow, I have never lived life without this extremity before, without this arm or leg, and I kind of need this. So that was a pretty awesome change. Last piece of her was Hashimoto's, and with autoimmune conditions really occur when our nervous system is under such stress and duress that it'll kind of basically start attacking, our immune system will start attacking itself, our own host. And that's not supposed to happen with an immune system. A lot of people will blame genetics as the root of it and say, well, my mom had it, therefore I'm going to have it. And that's why I do have it, and now I'm on levothyroxine for the rest of my life. Genetics they're a rung of the ladder, but they are not what pulls the trigger. And in Hashimoto's case, really there's the connection point of 5 pieces. You have your brain, your thyroid, your gut, your stomach, or your liver, and your cell. You have those 5 pieces are all players in navigating Hashimoto's, and all those need to be addressed together because their hormones are what's being compromised in Hashimoto's in particular. But in an autoimmune condition overall, it's where our body's immune system is attacking something that is natural to us, that's in us. Typically it's an organ or a tissue. And so for Hashimoto's, we have an antibody that's attacking part of our thyroid that's preventing it from creating the hormone that's supposed to go into our cells. And so that's why it's called hypothyroidism, is that it's low thyroid function, which then you have to take a supplement or a medication for to try to stimulate that. And then that can just kind of cause a slew of stuff. So the typical symptoms for Hashimoto's are like heat, cold intolerance, unexplained weakness, low energy, lethargy, malaise. Essentially those kind of words will come up. You might feel just like hot flashes or really cold streaks. Those kind of people who are dealing with that, they're typically wearing pants and hoodies in summer, or they're wearing shorts and a t-shirt in winter. Like their temperature regulation is really off, and that's something that they'll typically notice out of the gate, because temperature regulation is a primary function of our autonomics. Right now I'm hot, and I'm in pants and a long sleeve shirt. And my body is hot because it's starting to get warm outside in Arkansas right now. So the way that my body's going to cool me off is by creating a little bit of sweat. That's how we're able to get some temperature out of my body. If I'm cold and we need to generate heat, my body's going to start to shiver. I can't control that. It just happens. And that's an automatic function, autonomic function, which is from our nervous system, which is what we are addressing on these scans and what we are measuring on a day out and day in basis every single visit, which also determines whether or not we're going to adjust someone. Because if the whole purpose of an adjustment is to restore neurologic function, it makes 0 sense to adjust someone if they are functioning properly. And the only way that we can know if they are functioning properly is if we run a scan. It's the only way. Which means we have to do it every single time. Which means that test is of the utmost importance. It's the most important thing that we do in this clinic, to be able to actually screen and confirm whether or not we can expect to get results. And also be able to monitor over time, are we still holding our correction? Are we not holding our correction? Do we need to get adjusted today? Am I good to leave you alone? Is your body still in a state of healing itself and being able to work on its own? Because there is nothing that mankind has to offer that has a greater healing potential than what's already created in our brain. It just has to get unlocked. And that's really the premise, the entire premise of upper cervical chiropractic, is just putting the body in a state to be able to heal itself, monitor that over time, verify that over time, and when that happens, we know that a lot of good things are going to come. So if you're watching this and you're like, man, that resonated with me, arm issues, arm numbness, abdominal issues, whether it's inconsistent bowel movements, nausea, vomiting, indigestion, autoimmune conditions, heat, cold intolerance, malaise, fatigue, weakness, anxiety, depression. If you're dealing with those and you're like, this is speaking to me, I think my nervous system might be a culprit, nothing else has worked, all of the lab tests come back normal, please go find an upper cervical chiropractor, particularly one that will do computerized infrared thermography to actually confirm whether or not your nervous system is involved. And if it is, please get under care. It'll be a tremendous investment for you and your family's health and longevity. I'm Dr. Chris Brown. Thanks for tuning in.